Deep within the dark woods, a sinister presence lurks, trapping a family in its grip of fear. Guided by an enigmatic mentor, they set out to confront the malevolent forces plaguing their lives. But as they journey deeper, they realize the line between good and evil is dangerously thin. Get ready for a thrilling tale of supernatural terror and redemption as they fight to free themselves from the clutches of darkness. Welcome to our new story, The Demons in the Woods. Enjoy. Welcome, story lovers, to the latest tale. This story revolves around a man named Jordan, who encountered sinister entities in the woods. I am a voodoo priest, and together with my father, we assist people with their problems. Thus, we present this tale from our perspective. Jordan personally recounted his story to us, revealing that he inherited spiritual knowledge from his late grandfather, Franklin. He also informed us that his grandfather's death was anything but natural, of which he was certain. Furthermore, he expressed confusion regarding the circumstances of his grandfather's demise. Jordan was told that his grandfather was tethered to the earthly realm by an entity, preventing him from passing on to the afterlife. Before his passing, Franklin had transferred all his spiritual wisdom and abilities to Jordan, imparting the necessary skills and instructions. Under Franklin's guidance, Jordan mastered his grandfather's spiritual work admirably. It was also disclosed to us that Franklin had engaged in nefarious activities during his lifetime, performing dark deeds for paying clients who sought his aid. Jordan explained that his grandfather practiced black magic on behalf of these clients, fulfilling both good and often malevolent requests. Jordan followed suit after inheriting his grandfather's abilities. Grandfather Franklin was renowned for his effective black magic practices, always delivering results as desired by the client. Jordan aspired to match his grandfather's prowess. He adhered to rituals involving offerings on his altar, praying for success in his endeavors. Offering sacrifices was customary in his work, as the spirits demanded appeasement. Neglecting these obligations would yield unfavorable outcomes, Jordan warned. Once, Jordan failed to complete a sacrifice correctly, resulting in his partner becoming possessed. This incident led to the loss of his partner. Subsequently, Jordan refrained from pursuing relationships, as his involvement in the spiritual realm, particularly its darker aspects, frightened potential partners away. He noted that his powers were strongest during the full moon, drawing from years of personal experience. Conversely, during lunar and solar eclipses, his powers diminished. Fasting on certain days was integral to his practice, as taught by his grandfather. During these periods, Jordan ventured into the forest to capture entities for use in his work, preferring the seclusion of the woods over populated areas. Upon encountering a particular entity, Jordan tries to get it closer to him so he could catch it within a spiritually prepared stone. Once captured, the entity was bound to Jordan's will, required to fulfill his commands. Jordan provided these entities with symbolic homes, chains, bottles, or other objects, signifying their allegiance to him. Each entity received a name assigned by Jordan to avoid confusion during his work. Over the years, Jordan amassed a considerable collection of entities through these methods. While Jordan divulged these details, I listened with reluctance, disapproving of his malevolent pursuits. Jordan seemed unscrupulous, willing to fulfill any request for payment, regardless of its morality. After 9 years of practicing this spiritual work, Jordan desired to start a family. He met a woman named Ingrid, who embodied the qualities he sought in a partner: kindness and warmth. Their bond flourished, and Ingrid urged him to abandon his dark practices. Jordan shared her desire, but was uncertain how to proceed without guidance from his deceased grandfather, who held the knowledge he needed. Jordan faced a dilemma. How could he transition away from his current path? Years of delving into dark magic had bound him to the expectations of these entities, and breaking free seemed impossible. Ingrid insisted he cease his activities before they embarked on building a family together. He attempted to dispose of the items containing the trapped entities, but to no avail. It appears someone knew what these products were, as he couldn't get rid of them anywhere. Meanwhile, he constantly quarreled with Ingrid over trivial matters. Jordan learned from his grandmother Martha that his grandfather hadn't died under natural circumstances. It was all because of those things Grandpa used to fetch from the forest. According to Martha, they were demonic entities that had caused her husband's sudden demise. Those are demons that Grandpa brought home from the woods. Nothing good about these things. They only bring misery and sorrow. That's why you and your girlfriend are constantly fighting. Everything is going wrong between you, just as it did between Grandpa and me. I warned him many times, but he wouldn't listen, and it became his end, Grandma Martha told Jordan. Initially, Jordan didn't want to believe it, as his grandfather had never disclosed this to him. However, upon reflection, he concluded that his grandmother was right. Despite delving so deeply into the spiritual realm, he decided to quit everything altogether. He didn't know what consequences it would bring, but he had to try to find out if it was possible or not. Jordan couldn't get rid of the items anywhere, so he devised a plan that would cost him dearly. He packed all the products possessed by dark entities and decided to go to the forest, where he intended to hunt down these entities. With 2 full bags, he headed towards the forest, where he often went, with the plan to bury the products there. However, things went awry on the way to the forest. While driving, it felt as though the brakes had stopped working. Jordan tried to stop the car with all his might at a traffic light, but the car kept rolling. Fortunately, he had an older car, allowing him to pull the handbrake and bring the car to a halt. Deep down, Jordan knew it was because of the demons. He had never had problems with his brakes before. However, he was determined to bury the items, so he decided to continue driving slowly towards the forest. Once in the forest, he began digging a hole to bury all the items. When the hole was large enough, he retrieved the bag when suddenly he was shoved hard and fell into the hole himself. It was strange because there was no one nearby. Jordan tried to get up from the hole, but it felt as though someone was sitting on top of him, pushing him hard into the ground. He was in the grip of a demon and couldn't get up. Jordan decided to pray and continued praying until he felt the grip loosen. He managed to get up, but he knew he couldn't discard the items there. He decided to return home and look for another solution. However, it didn't take long before he started experiencing dark problems. He often went into trance states at the most unusual times. Initially, this happened occasionally, but as time passed, he went into trance more frequently until he entered it every day. When Jordan went into trance, various entities possessed his body and began demanding certain things. Most requested food, drink, or even cigarettes. These entities remained in his body until he eventually ran out of strength. Because Jordan had suddenly stopped his usual work, the entities were not pleased. Many rituals had been performed binding these demonic entities to Jordan spiritually. He had essentially created a contract with these demonic beings, and getting out of it wasn't easy. What Jordan thought was an easy exit from his work turned out to be far from the truth. Dealing with demons is not a game. Jordan saw his life rapidly deteriorating, just as he had witnessed with his grandfather. Back then, he didn't understand what was happening, but now he knew that Grandma Martha was right. The demons from the forest were responsible. After months of not offering sacrifices on his altar, he only became sicker. He grew thinner and thinner. Meanwhile, he searched for a way out, or a solution to escape this dire situation. But he couldn't find any way to free himself from this demonic grip. He also didn't know where to seek help. While Jordan wanted to continue, my father interrupted him and asked, "But Jordan, let me ask you one thing. What exactly do you expect from us?" Jordan said dejectedly, "I want to leave this dark world. I can't handle this anymore and want a normal life. This is destroying me completely. Look at me now. These things are slowly killing me and causing me suffering. I've tried all sorts of ways to break the curse, the binding, and the partnership between me and these entities. But I just can't. I've also sought help from some people, and they told me they couldn't help me because breaking the curse was impossible. If they were to remove those entities from me, it would mean my death, I was told. This is not what I want. I'm at my wit's end, which is why I've come to you for help." Before we continue with this story, please leave a like and a comment for our channel. If you like these true scary stories, please subscribe and enjoy every week. My father looked at Jordan and informed him that we have our own approach, and we could likely help him. The only thing we expected from him was his cooperation as we asked of him. My father asked him to open his heart to the one who created him, because this would not be an easy task. Jordan had been dealing with demons for almost 10 years. He had done many bad deeds in collaboration with these entities, so freeing him would be an enormous task for us. We informed him that not only his body, but also his home would be cleansed, because many dark entities resided there, and that's where he spent most of his time. Jordan had no problem with that. He wanted to be helped as soon as possible. We outlined a plan of action for Jordan, indicating when we would begin his liberation, but he didn't want to hear anything about it. He kept insisting on being helped the same day. He didn't want to go back home without being helped. According to him, this was a life and death situation, and he didn't want to spend another day in this condition, being taken over by demonic beings. They were already making him do many things against his will, bringing him disgrace. People were already starting to think he was crazy because of his behavior, and he didn't want this anymore. He wanted to be helped immediately. My father and I decided to proceed with our work right away, going beyond our usual preparations. Typically, we would first do our groundwork calmly, preparing for everything that needed to happen. But Jordan didn't give us the space for that because he refused to leave. We didn't want to disappoint Jordan's family, who had all come along. They were outside, as they were quite fed up with the situation too. After he and his family begged us, my father and I decided to go to the house where Jordan stayed. We wanted to assess and address the situation there. Before leaving for Jordan's house, we packed all the necessary items and performed our rituals first. When we finished, we decided to ride with Ingrid. Jordan was supposed to be in the car with us. I sat in the middle between my father and Jordan. On the way, Jordan lost consciousness. I already had an idea of what would happen since we had done such liberations before. And you notice a certain pattern. The demons always resist and go to great lengths. I didn't focus on what was happening to Jordan. When we arrived at Jordan's house, I suggested that the family should wait outside for a while. This was important because unexpected things could happen. Since we don't want to harm anyone unnecessarily, we always ask the family to stay away. The people agreed to our request and promised to watch from the street. We continued with our rituals and connected with Mother Earth. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Jordan staring blankly at his house without any movement or blinking. My father also noticed, and we immediately knew that he had gone into a trance. My father and I approached him and communicated with whatever had taken possession of Jordan's body at that moment. My father began asking the necessary questions. When he asked the thing who he was, it said it was the deceased grandfather, Franklin. I called the family to listen along, and they all said, based on the statements and behaviors, that they were convinced it was indeed Grandpa. There was no doubt in their minds. Everything in Jordan was the same as in Grandpa. For the family, it wasn't anything new, as they had previously told us that Grandpa occasionally manifested in Jordan. We asked Grandpa why he was manifesting in Jordan. Grandpa spoke calmly. After hearing his story, we concluded that he should no longer wander on Earth and that it was time for him to rest. He asked us to show him the path to where he could ultimately find peace, because he couldn't find it on his own. Grandpa knew we could help him with this, and he knew we were there to assist. We did as he asked and guided him to the other side of the light. It was a very emotional moment for the family. There were tears shed because they knew their grandfather couldn't just pop in through Jordan's body anymore. Grandpa had to rest, and they wouldn't be able to talk to him anymore. Before guiding Grandpa to the light, he begged us to help free Jordan from evil. That's why he came forward to speak. After Grandpa departed and Jordan came out of the trance, we asked Jordan to guide us to the place where he made all his offerings. Jordan did as we asked, and we walked to the room where his altar lay. As we walked, I could feel how possessed and unclean this place was. You could feel the dark energies, the chilling atmosphere, and the presence of demons. Once we arrived at the room, Jordan knocked on the door 3 times before opening it. Only then did we enter to assess the situation. What I saw was truly unsettling. I saw various bottles, perfumes, knives, dolls, photos of the deceased, clay pots, monkey skulls, a cow's head, teeth, and many other things I can't recall. It was a space where it was clear that dark energies were at work more than good ones. As soon as I entered the room, I had persistent goosebumps. We decided not to waste any time and immediately began the necessary cleansing of this place using our own rituals. We proceeded as follows. First, we began the spiritual and physical cleansing of Jordan. I placed the items we would be using on the floor in Jordan's workspace. I locked the door to the offering room and put the key in my pocket. Meanwhile, my father spoke with Jordan, and I noticed his eyes glinting strangely. He sat, and we sat directly across from him. We prayed. We lit a candle, and the fire illuminated the entire room. As soon as this happened, Jordan started screaming uncontrollably. It sounded as if someone had poured hot oil on him. That's how intense his screams were. I kept my eyes closed and focused on our prayer, while it was clear that Jordan was becoming possessed. My father and I continued with the prayer, and were not deterred by anything. When we finished the prayer, we opened our eyes and saw Jordan standing, looking fiercely, with a twisted iron rod in his hands. As we looked at him, he immediately tried to attack us, but he couldn't. Every time he tried to approach us, it was as if something was holding him back. He kept trying, but he couldn't get close to us. He made all kinds of animalistic and growling sounds, clearly indicating that he was demonically possessed. I took some of our blessed water, which we had made during our preparations for the prayer. I poured it on Jordan, and he immediately fell to the floor as if struck by lightning. He started making a strange sound, as if electricity was hitting him. He rolled back and forth on the floor due to the blessed water I poured over his body. My father performed some rituals on Jordan's trembling body. While my father blew on Jordan, it seemed as if he was regaining himself. I unlocked the door, and we helped him up because he seemed a bit weak. We left the offering room because we would continue to work on him there. When we arrived, we let him sit on the ground because he didn't have the strength to stand. Then, I poured the blessed water into the filled basin and bathed him. This took a lot of time, but after we completed our necessary rituals, the family present was also allowed to bathe him. I gave them the opportunity to do so. After the cleansing was complete, we let him sit, because we would then proceed to cleanse the house and property. We sat in the same place where we had prayed before. I arranged the necessary items while my father was smoking. Fortunately, it wasn't a large house otherwise. It would only take more time and energy than it already did. We asked Ingrid to open all the windows and doors of the house, which she did immediately. We started our prayer, which went on for quite a while, and eventually, we felt the air around us change. I had goosebumps all over my body, and I tried not to focus on it, but all sorts of sensations went through me. It felt as if the air pressure around us was changing, as if the oxygen was decreasing, and I was gasping for breath. I knew demons always do this when they know you're there to remove them. They literally pull out all the stops to distract you from your goal. And that's exactly what was happening. Various distractions. There were even moments when I didn't remember words from my prayer or mixed up words. During the prayer, we commanded all entities present to return to where they came from. If they didn't obey, we would banish them to the deepest depths of hell, which even demons don't want. They absolutely dread going to hell, so sometimes the demons leave after some effort, but often they don't. Some make it quite difficult for us and think they can outsmart us. But we were prepared for this too, through years of experience dealing with this kind of riffraff. After we completed the prayer ritual, we stood up and sprinkled blessed liquid throughout the entire space. We started with Jordan's offering room. As I sprinkled the blessed material on Jordan's black magic items, I clearly saw a sort of smoky cloud form as if the items were on fire. The entire space was spiritually cleaned and purified. Then we entered the house and did the same there. In the house, we didn't see anything suspicious that aroused our suspicion. We only smelled a very strong odor, even though no one was present. After we had gone through all the necessary steps for cleansing and successfully completed them, we invited Jordan and his family onto the balcony. Everyone took their seats, and we informed them that all evil was gone. We also placed protection in the ground of the property so that no returning demons could reside there. We did the same for Jordan. He received protection from us so that nothing could enter his body again without permission. Jordan became very emotional. He never thought this moment would come when he would be freed. He didn't know how to thank us and said he felt enlightened. A heavy burden had been lifted from him, and he felt like living again. He kept thanking us with tears in his eyes. We urged him to stay away from black magic, because if he were to start the same bad practices again, we wouldn't help him again. He assured us that he wouldn't do it again. He really didn't want such a curse on himself anymore. I feel like I've lost my power since that liberation. So even if I wanted to start my work again, I couldn't. I'll never do this again. I'm damn happy to be free, Jordan said joyfully. Sherida, the mother, Ingrid, the girlfriend, and Martha, the grandmother, each thanked us personally because they were truly exhausted from the whole situation and had been burdened with this very unpleasant situation for years. Now that it was over, they wanted to show their gratitude. They all thanked us with tears in their eyes. Of course, this touched us deeply that we could help this family who had lived in pain for years, witnessing their son, grandson, and partner engaging in demonic practices. We informed Jordan that he needed to come to us for 7 days because we would go through the aftercare process with him for the necessary spiritual purification so that he wouldn't encounter any more problems in the future. He agreed to this. We decided to take Jordan's spiritual items from the offering room with us. The intention was to clean up that entire space because no one else dared to clean up the items. Now that we were there, we did the cleanup right away. While we were busy cleaning up, Jordan asked us if the demons would still come to attack him and possibly kill him. We assured him that they wouldn't, because the purpose of our work was to prevent all that he was afraid of. We had banished all the demonic entities to a place where they could no longer cause trouble, and we had bound their powers. He shook our hands again, and we could tell he didn't know what to do with himself out of gratitude. After everything was packed up, we left the house. On the way, we stopped at a bridge to throw the black magic items into the flowing water. These items should never be used again to harm others. After we did this, we headed home. When I arrived home, I took a refreshing bath and went to bed because I felt extremely tired. I fell into a deep sleep, and the demons present at the place where we had worked earlier that day appeared to me in my dreams. In the dream, I saw many people. Some had torn clothes, and some had long, curly black hair and looked unkempt. I saw many abnormally ugly-looking entities. It was as if they all wanted to tell me something, but I couldn't understand what it was exactly. At one point, it seemed as if we were in a war. I saw people fighting with each other with swords, guns, daggers, and cannons. As they approached me to harm me, it seemed as if they were forcefully thrown away by something invisible. I saw many houses being burned. many devastating storms, earthquakes, and tsunamis wreaking havoc, washing away all enemies from the earth. This dream told me that we had won the spiritual battle. The next day, when I told my father about this, it turned out he had had a similar dream. Later in the day, Jordan, Ingrid, and his mother, Anna, arrived. Jordan seemed cheerful and looked like a completely new person. It was evident that a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. The smile on his face spoke volumes. He radiated like a reborn person. He said he had slept very well and no longer had to fear going into a trance. Ingrid also said that she could sleep peacefully again after a long time and no longer had to fear that he would do something to her in her sleep. Jordan said he had a strange dream in which he packed his belongings and moved to a new home. He was afraid this meant death, but my father reassured him and said, "No, this is actually a good dream. This is a new beginning for you. You have left all the bad behind, and now a fresh new life awaits you."